Welcome. Thanks, guys, for coming in.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
We're huge fans of Korra here, and like everyone, are really excited that we're getting Korra very, very quickly. There's not a lot of downtime here as we go into book 4.
Yeah, that's true. It happened a little more quickly than we had expected as well.
Are you guys? I know that you were really pretty far along with book 4, but are you scrambling a little bit right now to deliver each week?
We're always in a state of scrambling. I've been living in a state of scrambling for about 10 years. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tight, but it won't be different than any other season. Probably better than some others. You know, honestly, book 3 came out later than it was supposed to. This was always when book 4 was supposed to come out. So, in a way, the seeming like there was less of a gap was just because book 3 came to meet it.
Well,
so
I'll make the pun about balance because, yeah, it's like I remember 2 and 3, there was like that long wait for 2 and 3. And then it's like, so it almost seems like this is the makeup season, right? It's like, here you go. We're going to get it all at once.
Yeah.
book 2 was the delay. It was just purely production. We just had like production problems and just took a lot of catching up. But
Are you guys tweakers? Do you by that?
Tweakers.
And by that I don't mean math.
Yeah, that's the only connotation I know.
Korra means break back. I mean, do you at the very last minute are you changing things? Are you moving around or is it pretty locked in?
It's pretty locked in. I mean, the stuff we change the most we have a whole process of retakes where it's like fixing technical stuff, where things are not colored correctly or a character level is in the wrong place, or and then sometimes we do like Bryan will do a little painting background fix or something like that. So yeah, I guess they are technically tweaks, but no major overhauls.
Oh, we're tweakers. Yeah, I mean the book 1 Korra finale, Matt Gebois, our After Effects editor or animator, he was working on that shot of Korra like she throws that punch and the airbending. It's like her first airbending punch. Like, I mean, he was working on that up till like a day before it aired on TV. Like, so yeah, sometimes it's down to the wire because there'll be really important shots and they're hard to do, and sometimes we have to work on them in the 11th hour.
You know, the trailer came out last week, and it was funny because, and
it looks amazing.
It's an awesome trailer. You're welcome. We posted it. It was funny because the trailer had just gone online, and it was about 10 minutes later. I hadn't had a chance to look at it yet, and someone tweets me and goes, 3 years later? With absolutely no context. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, that got quite an impression. That got quite a reaction.
Cool. I'm glad because, there's very few things nowadays that you can, keep under wraps. It seems like everything we do eventually just gets leaked before we want it to.
Right.
But that was one little detail we were trying to keep secret until the trailer came out, so I'm glad people were surprised by that.
What is the purpose of the title? Why not?
What's the purpose of storytelling? Why do you have characters?
Why does Korra bend?
Why does Korra? Why is there time? Why is there time?
Why Avatar?
We want to get the deep questions answered
This
here.
Well, there's a lot of purpose to it, but I'm just giving you a hard time. I mean, for me, Avatar: The Last Airbender was Mike and I designed that from the get-go as 3 seasons. It took us 6.5 years from conception to, delivering the finale. And then I was just done. Like, that was it. I didn't want, and people wanted us to make book 4 of Avatar. And I love those characters. I love the story, and it's all very important to me, but I had no interest in ever diving back into that. But the way, Korra's seasons are shorter, and the way it worked out story-wise is like you have your big crazy finale at the end of book 3, but it's like there really are things that are not resolved, and you get to jump ahead and see, well, what happened to them when they were a little older, and like how did this all play out? And so for me, it's kind of like the book 4 we never did. It makes sense this time. Right. So I like it as a weird structure instead of the 3-act structure, instead of the trilogy structure. I like it as this fully, it's like not just an epilogue. I mean, it's a full season, but I like it as kind of this like epilogue season.
Well,
I was just gonna say I love shows like when Battlestar Galactica jumps forward. I remember like my mind was blown. I was like, "What? What do you mean?" I think it was like a year later.
It was a year and a half.
It was a
Yeah.
year and a half
Yeah.
later.
And I mean, that was more they showed that right at the end of the season, but like I just remember thinking like that's so cool. Now there's all this like stuff you don't know that happened between the time period you're familiar with and this new part.
There was, but I think that a piece of that was that they didn't want to belabor the point with certain relationships.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get you to a new set of dynamics very quickly without having to explain why, you know, in every moment of the detail about why you were there.
That's probably a good explanation of ours. Too, I would say like there's a certain reason for, you know, we want to have all these pieces in place without like taking all this time to like get those like, and it has to be believable that the Earth Kingdom is in the situation it is going to be in, and that
yeah, it's all story based. I mean, it's not like we don't want to explain it. It's just like to get where we need to get for the story to happen, it needs to be 3 years later.
Right.
That's the purpose.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's sort of what I mean. Like Fargo did a big time. I don't know if you guys watched that series. They did a big time jump as well, and it felt initially jarring, but then very necessary to get the characters where they needed to be. So in this case, where the Earth Kingdom is discuss.
No,
it's in disarray. Well, you know.
Well, they painted everything green.
Yeah.
It took 3 years, you know, so it's in a state of green.
Yeah. Things have been
parade.
not stable in the Earth Kingdom, shall we say, since the Earth Queen met her demise. So, you know, our idea was there was just kind of a general chaos going on in the Earth Kingdom after her assassination.
And you know, with Korra herself, we left her so sad, such a sad Korra. Can you talk at all about you know, what her mind frame is, where she's at when we pick up with her 3 years later?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to give too much away, although, you know, a lot of it's pretty evident in the trailer. But I think another thing about the jump ahead, you know, when you have these kind of superhero type show, you know, people with superpowers and it's kind of a fantasy based thing, you know, it's easy for they just get in a big fight or, you know, have a big battle or, you know, they have some dangerous foe. And then it's like, okay, next episode, everything's okay. But, you know, even back on Avatar, Mike and I liked dealing with Aang having to look back at, like, what he's done. And he might have hurt some people and what that did to him, you know, and was that, like, an emotional scar or something. And so we wanted to get into that even deeper with Korra, which, you know, is even a little darker and more sophisticated and adult than Avatar was. So I think with, you know, as everybody felt, you know, who was a fan and audience member of the show, like, the end of book 3 is intense. And it's not just like, oh, a week later, everything's fine. You know, Korra's got a bandage on and she'll be okay. It's like some things aren't that easy. And so I think Mike and I really liked, and the writers, we really liked jumping ahead and saying, it's still not okay. You know,
3 years
later.
later.
3 years later. This is that was really serious. And just because someone might have all this supernatural, you know, physical power, it doesn't mean, you know, she's not human. And
yeah, that's why. Even though it is 3 years, like, it's very connected still, especially Korra's through line of like what happened to her at the end of book 3, and then her still recovering and seeing like what her mental state is at the beginning of this, which is still unsure about what she's going to do next.
Right.
What is her physical? I mean, I guess that was one of my guesses. Was like, oh well, she needs to be healed, but it needed to have taken time to get her out of that chair.
Definitely.
There's that too.
Definitely. And yeah, we do. I mean, the second episode deals primarily with her, the story of what happened to her after we last saw her at the end of book 3. So,
has it been you know, cool for you guys as storytellers to have this world you've created, and then to, as you mentioned, really get to mature with it, because you had, you know, the Avatar characters were kids, and then you began this show, and they are older teenagers, and now you're getting in this final season to show young adults. Is it, you know?
It
cool.
kind of goes along with our development, I guess. Not that we were quite that young when we started, but
I'm at about a 21-year-old
Right.
mentality, so yeah, we're doing good. Yeah, it is fun. I think it's fun for us. Like, even in season 2, just like Mako's a cop. Like, that's just kind of fun for us. You know, he's at the age he can get a job and, you know, and pay for an apartment and stuff like that. So it's just kind of fun for us. It was always funny to me when like Aang and those guys had like their own little apartment in Ba Sing
Right.
Se. Like it always seemed funny. And it was like these kids, like it's like some weird
They're so
sitcom when
grown
you're a
up.
kid. Yeah, like where are the parents? They just have their own. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just hanging.
Let's one of the characters that fans have been wondering about since the finale is Captain, and I don't know how to pronounce her name. I was just saying to Eric, I think it's Kuvira. Kuvira.
Kuvira.
Kuvira.
Yeah, close enough. Looks to be the central villain this season. I know you won't say much, but what can you sort of tease about her? I mean, she's a very human villain, driven by greed, seemingly.
It's
Not so
Not
I
really?
wouldn't say greed
No,
as much
greed's
as
not
she is very driven. She grew up in Zaofu and was part of Sue's, guard there. So she kind of grew up with Sue's ideology in a way of progress and modernization of the world. So she's got that mentality of like, wants to fix things. I would say is her drive.
She's voiced by Zelda Williams, who does an amazing job. One of my favorite. She's one of my favorite characters, and became a really big favorite of the crew. A lot of the crew members would come up to me and, I love her. I love Kuvira. So it's a fun character to draw and to write and
Yeah, and we wanted
hear
to have-
voiced. And
Sorry.
Yeah.
We wanted to have a villain that was like, basically Korra's a version of Korra.
Right.
You know, like the past 3 seasons she's been fighting older guys.
Right.
We thought it was time to have a.
And we
another
know older
female
guys are jerks. We know that already. Let's explore something
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
So in a way they share some similar personality traits and stuff too. So.
But it's not, and I'm guessing here, it's not generally such a black and white. I mean, the villains are villains.
Yeah, we've never been into the super
you
black
can-
and white villain. I mean, I think the one we did the most like that was Ozai.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't. It's not that we couldn't have done it. I don't know. We just didn't get into him. We never really got into his head. He was just kind of an egomaniac, which does exist.
Right.
I mean, power hungry egomaniac. But yeah, every other character we like to explore. It's, this guy that we had worked with in the past had said, good characters making bad decisions, bad characters making good decisions. That's kind of the fodder for interesting stories. And so, yeah, we don't like to look at our villains as just video game bosses or something.
I don't know if he got in horrible trouble for this or not, but Daniel Day Kim has said that he'll be appearing in your final season.
He did.
We had him
reveal that.
assassinated.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
He was
It's very sad.
Yeah, no, capital punishment for that. No, we love Daniel, and I'm sure he just didn't know. He wasn't supposed to say that.
Yeah, that's it. But yes, you will see Hiroshi again.
No, we went back when he released that. We cut him out. Cut him out of the entire season. Yeah.
I mean, I would want to ask though, it being the final season, is
Every character who ever appeared is going to have the most amazing character arc, equal screen time, which equates to 4 seconds.
Right.
Exactly.
How much do you weigh that though? Because it is the final season, and you want to honor the history of the show at the same time. You need to tell the story of this final season. It can't be as you're joking. It cannot be
Yeah.
like, and remember this character, like everyone walking out. So how do you balance wanting to have those nice nods with the fact that you can't get so stuck in the past?
I mean, for me, it all depends on what the main story is and if it makes sense to bring. Like you'll see, there's a thematic reason why Hiroshi is back, and there was a little unfinished business with Asami and him and stuff. So, there's a reason in the grander scheme of the story why he's back. At the very end, we do throw in a couple just random, hey, that guy, but we won't tell you who yet.
Right.
But it's in a
Story is
kind of a gag situation. So
Yeah, story is first and foremost, and yeah, I mean we would love to be able. You wish you could like explore certain things, but at the end of the day, there's only you only have so much time in the episode, and you've got to tell the story. You can't just do the, just real self-referential stuff all the time. It's fun every once in a while, but if we just did that, I mean, we joke around like when the fans like, but this person wasn't there and this person wasn't there. I want this character to come back.
Right.
And it is what I'm just like. If you did that, you'd have nothing left. It would just be a parade of these side characters and
Right.
no meat to the story.
You do. There is a hint about one big character return
Yeah.
at the end of the trailer, obviously, Toph.
Oh, yes.
So a lot of people have been speculating about
That Daniel Day Kim is
that
playing
Daniel
Toph.
Day-
In his
He
most
is-
challenging
okay.
role.
All right, you guys figured it out. You heard it here.
Big reveal at
Yeah.
IGN. Why did you choose? I mean, obviously that's going to be a moment. We don't know how the moment's going to play out, and it's kind of fun. Do you guys pay attention to how people, what they're saying, like what they think it might be about? A, and B, why did you choose to sort of drop that hint instead of holding it back?
Because we
Well,
figured it
because
would
we
get
figured,
leaked.
yeah, basically, we knew it was probably going to come out before the episode came out anyway, and it seemed like a cool way to.
And the trailer.
And we knew people were talking about it, like that they were speculating that Toph was going to be back, but that's why we said it, but didn't show her yet. So you haven't.
People
seen
are even kind of threatening. They better bring Toph back. Because if they don't, so, yeah, we're just kind of like, hey, calm down.
We like her just as much as everyone, so
Simmer down.
we were happy to
Yeah.
find a way to
We
weave her back
brought her
in.
back.
Yeah.
To restore balance.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what were your conversations like when you began this show about the Avatar cast? Because, that obviously you're going to have to make these big decisions about, who's alive, who's dead, when do you show them? Was there ever talk of Aang being alive in a mentor role, or was it like we just can't?
Well, you can't.
Well, he
Yeah.
can't be, yeah.
He physically couldn't
Yeah.
be alive for Korra to
Right.
exist.
Yeah.
But that's why we had him in as her kind of. I mean, he wasn't there much, but yeah, he appeared as her past life.
But did you talk about like Toph, could have been there at the beginning? She could have been, hanging around, but it's like, no, it would be too much at the beginning if we're trying to introduce these new characters.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely figured out from the beginning that Sokka had died because
Yeah.
Katara says that in the first
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
And we figured Zuko was around, and Toph was kind of. We weren't 100% sure one way or the other.
Didn't we have some ridiculous jokes of how she died? Like she
Yeah.
got in a bet to like pick up a mountain.
I think you pitched that.
I think I pitched it, and like that was it. Like it fell on her, and she died. And everyone was just kind of just shrugged their shoulders, like, "Yep, I don't know. She went out the way she came in. Like, what are you gonna do?" And like it was just this weird.
Yeah, she was
ending.
always kind of the wild card. But I always thought, like, if she's out there, she's not just like part of.
Society.
Yeah, like there would be a different twist to her story. So it all kind of made sense with Book 4 and, the role she plays with Korra and stuff. So.
But you're right. I mean, we were very aware of that. Like we were making a new series,
Right.
And we weren't interested in just like, the Golden Girls version of Avatar. Nothing against.
That would be
Golden.
good.
Great
Did you
program.
see that one where they rotoscoped it with like Aquaman, Batman, and
No,
Superman,
no, I need
No.
and Robin? It's amazing.
Did they take actual dialogue?
It's just the opening title
Oh,
sequence,
okay.
but they rotoscoped them in. It's pretty incredible. So yeah, I mean, we obviously wanted to link it to that old series, but it had to be done in balance. And the seasons are pretty short, so we couldn't just again parade everybody through and just to do it.
Now, you mentioned the fans, and when you have something like this that has such a passionate fan base, obviously it becomes kind of overwhelming at a certain point. Everyone has their opinion. I'm really curious what you guys think about sort of the whole love story thing.
Korrasami.
Yeah. When you go online, it's so funny because you're just as well going to read people who are like, yes, you will. There's Tumblrs and all these things devoted to all these potential or romantic pairings you've done, and then there's people going, I don't want any romance on this.
Yeah. I
It
don't
is-
know what kids want.
right.
You can't make. There is no way to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
I feel like
So-
Korrasami's the way.
It is a way. And I mean,
It's a valid way.
It's a
If you
great
enjoy
way.
that,
It's
we love
totally.
it.
It's a
Please.
good way, but there is no way to satisfy everyone, and at the end of the day, I mean, you just have to tell the story that you wanted to tell, and put it out there. If you start second guessing everything, well, I better see how many Tumblr pages are dedicated to this ship, and then. Well, but wait, there's fewer of these, but they're a little better quality. If that's how you're going to write and create, you're going to make a crappy show. And so we just tell the story that Mike and I and the writers feel we like, and sometimes people like it, sometimes they don't, and
But then,
I'm
and
sure
then
everyone in
there's-
this room probably has a
And
different
then there's still
opinion.
people who want Mako and Korra to get back together. So,
Right.
we got them all. Everyone
Yeah.
Every
maybe
possible pairing.
And there's
could be.
fanfic for all of
A
this.
Bolin curveball, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a question because Avatar ended on a hopeful note. Korra has been in a lot of ways a darker series, particularly.
Do you want us to tell you the ending?
I do.
Just
No,
write
I
it
don't.
down right here.
I'm that person that reads the last page of a book, so I wouldn't care.
Oh man.
I know.
You know what? If it ruins the book, it
Don't
wasn't
get
a
me
good
started.
story. It wasn't. If
Don't
it
get
ruins
me
the book, it was
started.
not a good story. It was a
Wow.
one-trick pony if it ruins it. That's the truth. So this is the question, though. I mean, there's this one shot in the trailer that I pointed out. I was like, oh my God, that moment makes me cry.
But I
And
think
he's
it's
like, you're so
cool.
weird. And it was when she's in the Avatar state and somebody walks by and she just sort of disappears.
Oh, yeah.
There has been this idea throughout this series about whether she is relevant or needed, or the Avatar is even needed anymore. And I'm wondering if that is kind of the big thing that's going to play out in the season, as maybe some voices rise up once again to be like, not really. Like, we don't need you. We need equanimity.
I mean, actually, I would say a lot of it more is Korra's internal voice telling her that. Like, that it's kind of her journey of, like, figuring out, like, what is my role? Am I really needed? There's not as, I mean, there's
some of that.
Yeah,
but-
there's some of that coming from other people, but it has a lot to do with her own psyche and those like negative voices we all have in our heads telling us like we're not good enough or we're not needed
Yeah.
or whatever. And so
Or we did the wrong ship.
yeah. So it's about her.
It
kind
keeps
of
me up at
struggling
night,
with those
you know?
things.
So let's talk a bit about the whole distribution question and the move to online. There was so much freaking out. I mean, I remember it was funny because of course that happened right going into San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, we were on our way.
Oh,
right.
We were on our way down there.
I think we just gotten there.
Yeah.
And everyone was freaking out. And what's happening? Where's the show? Okay, it's coming back online. What is your feelings on it now? At this point, and why do you think with this show, they chose to make that move, which clearly has passionate fans.
We don't know all the behind the scenes reasoning about this stuff. I mean, one thing we do know is that a lot of our fans are online anyway, so it does make sense in that regard. And it seemed like, the end of book 3 did well. It's hard, again, we don't get all the
Right.
detailed numbers of how that all played out, but I guess people found the show. It seems like people are talking about it still, so that's good. And now hopefully, there's been some time for people to catch up on book 3 and jump into book 4.
Right. And are you? I mean, it is so unusual to have book 4 coming so soon after book 3. And it's funny because most of the time people were bemoaning like, I have to wait between
Yeah.
seasons.
Oh,
I have
and
to
then
wait
they started complaining.
And then they
about
started
that.
complaining
Yeah.
about it's coming.
Again, you can't win.
You
know?
cannot. We cannot wait.
Is there an ideal time of waiting that people do like? I don't know.
No, I think if there's one thing the internet has taught us all is that no, in fact, you cannot win.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just a numbers game. No matter what you do, a certain percentage are going to have one reaction. You're always going to have people who have the exact opposite reaction, and it's again, we just have to try to align ourselves with the art, and the story, and do our best. All that stuff, man, is so out of our hands. We could sit here and like tiptoe around. There's stuff we can't say. It's just company stuff,
Right.
and there's like things we could sit here and try to explain, and they'd bore you to death. And like at the end of the day, we have no control over it. It just happens to us. We just make the show, and we're just trying to get to the end of it. I mean, there's really nothing we can do or say. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
to
just
go
hope
interview
that people know
some
where to find it,
executives.
yeah.
Really
That sounds
find out.
scintillating.
Yeah.
Do you? Oh, I'm just sorry.
No, go for it.
No, you go. No, I'll go. Okay. Do you?
I'm gonna go.
Are you?
Tell me more about reading the last page. No, I'm just kidding.
We can talk about that later. For now, I want to ask though: are you in talks or thinking about amongst yourselves another incarnation of the Avatar, or do you want this to really kind of close this particular story out?
This is
definitely the end of Korra.
Yeah.
I mean, the
this
end
will
of-
close the Korra chapter.
But
And
but another Avatar
This
there-
universe.
in this universe.
Yeah.
there's no talks of any of those things at the moment.
yeah.
Even
I mean,
amongst me and Bryan.
yeah, nothing. Definitely not. It doesn't mean it would never happen.
Yeah.
We still love the Avatar verse. very deeply, and I think it's still an inspiring place for Mike and me. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain to people without sounding like you're whining. But when you come out of a giant production like this, Avatar was from creating it and developing it, doing the pilot, and then for the 3 seasons. It was 6.5 years, like I mentioned earlier. We had a little bit of a break, and then Korra will be 5 years when we're done. And it was 5 brutal years. It was really hard, just production-wise. It's just really hard. So, it's not. It's like, as artists, we're not just like, yeah, let's just roll right back into
Right.
another 5-6 years of that. And obviously, with the way the show was kind of, not shelved, but demoted, it's hard to get super excited about, like, it's not really the right timing, I think, So we need to recharge our batteries, do other things, and I think some things need, the industry's changing so much. I mean, a lot of it, this isn't just Nickelodeon. I mean, the industry's changing. Things are going more digital. They're going to, direct downloads or digital downloads and streaming. And I think it's time for us to,
And just as creative people and artists and writers and stuff, like,
Yeah.
I want to try some different things,
Sure.
in my career and try different stories and different types of storytelling and stuff, and not. I think we'll always be linked to Avatar in some way, and maybe we'll come back to it at some point. But yeah, certainly we're ready to try some new things.
There are other people out there that I haven't disappointed yet, and I need to find them.
Disappoint them.
I've been lucky enough to disappoint millions, but there are all these other people I haven't tapped into.
With the stuff, the auxiliary stuff, like the comic books and whatnot, how involved are you in those as far as, approving the stories or seeing that they're not going maybe in a direction you don't want them to go?
Yeah, the comics are one thing we're very involved in. I mean, Gene, who writes the comics, they're his baby, and the artists who draw it, it's all them, Gurihiru. But yeah, we talk with Gene and give notes and stuff on the storylines.
I don't want to take credit. Mike's much more involved, mostly because I'm very behind in my work. But I mean, I do check in and just kind of keep an eye on that stuff.
And certainly Gene's brought a ton to the stories and stuff. But yeah, there are things of like, well, actually, I'd rather see the story go in this direction or that direction or whatever. And so those we're, pretty involved with. And then the art books, we don't design them, but we pick all the art. We write all the captions with Joaquim, and so those we're super involved with.
Yeah, our friend Steven has designed almost all of them. There was one of them, another designer did some of it. But yeah, we love that stuff. And yeah, Gene and Gurihiru do such a great job with the books. And Mike does a very good job supervising them. And
so
it's cool, and that stuff's going to keep going. Yeah, and we are going to be involved in
those.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
And actually, and I'm hoping to be more involved in the comics now that I'll have, won't be making the show,
right?
Which is always tough.
I'm sure. I know you guys must have been asked this a lot in the past, but I've never asked you. And speaking of disappointment,
How have we disappointed you? Please.
you guys did. I'm just curious if you would ever want to see a, say, different version of the Last Airbender movie.
I'd like to see it not exist. Does that count as a different version?
Be wiped off.
Yeah, the
Stricken
movie
from the
thing is always
record.
a tricky one for us. I mean, we like the idea of like either animated or live action. Avatar could be Korra could be a new story in the Avatar universe.
Let's be really clear. We like the idea. It
yeah.
doesn't mean
It doesn't mean
it
we're
doesn't mean
making
we're
it.
making it.
Right.
It's an idea in our
People
heads
think
that-
when we
yeah.
say that, like we'll be
People
like,
are like,
they're making it.
Right.
Like,
They're far into
no.
production on it.
I like the idea of owning my own airplane. I don't have one. Like, I actually don't want it. Just make that clear.
Okay. Well, it's as you said, it's a lot of work goes into this. It's very exhausting, but you have created this huge universe at this point. And when you go, and as much as there's the shipper wars and the different fandoms, when you go to say Comic-Con and you see a bunch of screaming people, a lot of them in costume, as the characters you created, is there something kind of just surreal and wow, that this is, that these people are that passionate about something you created?
I don't know if it's surreal. It's just awesome. It's fun. It's great. We love going to Comic-Con, and we love talking to the fans and how the different shows, what it's meant to them, finding out these, often people share just these either they're really funny or they're just, the simplest one that we get the most often is like, a family will say they watch it together and they all love it. Like from grandmother loves it down to the little sister is like 5 years old. They all love it, and it's a thing they do together. And I think that's really touching for me and Mike to hear. But then there are just an incredible variety of personal stories, and that's the thing about making art of any kind. You pour your heart and soul into it, but then you're done with it. You cut the umbilical and it goes out there, and then its life begins. And people, there's episodes of Avatar like I've completely forgotten about. It doesn't mean like the second I see it, I have deja vu and I remember making it, because we tweaked every frame. But I kind of have to wipe the hard drive and move on and bring in new things. And but years later, people keep finding this stuff and they keep interacting with it, and it means something to them, and it might mean something different to them than to somebody else, and there's no better way to get that feedback than to meet people and to hear and see their enthusiasm. And I don't know if I've ever had a surreal moment. I just love seeing there was the woman, she was like this fitness nut, and she was dressed as Korra at San Diego, and she had white contacts in.
Whoa,
and she
that was pretty surreal.
She was in battle damage Korra mode, and I kept just looking up, and she'd just be looking at from from back in the line, and I was like, it's totally freaking me out.
And then she vanished.
It's not as though I thought she was real, but it was scary. And there have been a couple of Mons that are really well done, and again they're just standing in line. And I designed that mask. I made it to be creepy, and it's looking back at me.
Yeah, you might have had the same thing where after one of the signings, Amon came up and gave me a big hug. And he was like, "Thank you, man." Thank you. I was like, "Oh, all right, that's good."
Oh yeah. At the Activision.
That was kind of surreal.
At the Activision party.
Your character is embracing it.
Yeah, he had the mask on.
Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. The Legend of Korra Book 4 debuts this Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nick.com.
Yes.
People can find it. We will be bugging these guys again at New York Comic Con very shortly with more questions. But yeah, thanks so much. We are looking forward to seeing how this ends.
Thanks for having us.